Curious, you mentioned both of the schools, A&M and Texas. What other differences do you feel like are between those schools, like, and because there's such a rivalry, obviously, between the schools?
Well, there certainly has been in the last several years, and I've been blamed for that. But just a couple of things I'll observe, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody here,
Yeah.
but I think you find a different feel for the campuses. You mentioned agriculture. That's a big thing at A&M, but not the biggest thing by any means. Engineering is by far the largest college within Texas A&M University's boundaries. They're moving towards 25,000 students by 2025 is the goal that the dean has set for them. Ag is a big school here, but by no means the largest college that we have. Historically, this is a land grant institution. Oral Act that was signed by Lincoln in 1863 created a mechanism to allow these kinds of schools to exist. Prior to then, almost all the universities in the country, in the world for that matter, were private. They just catered to those who could afford to go there. And that meant only a certain type of person could really attend the university back in the 19th century. The Morrill Act changed all that. And it created these schools that were supposed to train people, educate them in useful arts. And that meant agriculture, engineering. Also, there was a piece of it which said military training and service was part of that as well. Not just Texas A&M, which has a famous and well-known Corps of Cadets, but every land grant school at one point in history had these young men in uniforms marching around the campus, getting trained in military arts while they were going to school. That was part of the Morrill Act. That sort of died away in the 20th century. When I was at Mizzou, there were pictures I was given there which showed ranks of young men dressed in uniform on the main quadrangle of the campus in the 1800s, which is a common thing. Texas A&M is one of the schools that sort of kept that alive, perhaps more so than most schools of this nature have. But every state has one or more land grant schools. They have become the backbone in many respects of public education in the United States, and an example for many. But UT didn't start that way, basically. They started a different kind of way, and they focused a lot on liberal arts. That was a major part of their focus going forward. You had different kinds of choices here. And based on who you were you coming from an urban place like Dallas, or were you coming from a place like I came from, where farming and ranching were the norms? So your choice was based on comfort, based on what your parents did for a living, based on your own aspirations, which were shaped by where you grew up oftentimes. So it's not surprising that the UT system primarily has its campuses in urban settings.
Yeah.
The A&M system has its campuses primarily, not all, but primarily in rural or small town settings. I mean, College Station, when this place was started, was a single building, a railroad station. That's all there was here. And it was 5 miles to the nearest town, which was Bryan, Texas.
What year was that? What year was that?
1876 is the beginning of this university. The first class came here in October of 1876. And so basically that sort of, you got off the train, what'd you see? Prairie. That's all you saw. If it was raining, you got muddy. The first dorms were tents. Those were the sort of things we live with here. I mean, there were frequent fires because that time heating and light was provided by fire, not by lamps. And so buildings burned down. We had several major fires here on campus early in its life, and students oftentimes were forced to live in tents because no place else existed. And it was a 5-mile trek or a short train ride to get to the nearest civilization, which was Bryan, Texas, 5 miles north of the campus.
Yeah.
It's stark, but that wasn't unusual. Go to Blacksburg, Virginia, and look at Virginia Tech. It's in the middle of nowhere, essentially. Yeah. And you have the same kind of feeling in terms of the nature of the location there as you would see here at Texas A&M. So again, different things here. Just very different sorts of cultural settings here. One example, this is a very churched town. Most people here belong to a church of some type, and so same for the students. You don't find that quite the same way in Austin, Texas. Again, I'm not disparaging anybody here. I'm just saying it's just different.
Yeah.
There's a Bible study every Tuesday night here at Texas A&M in the basketball arena, and up to 10,000 students attend that. You don't see that many places.
Wow.
So you can understand why
That's incredible.
a certain kind of background would prefer their child come here and not someplace else. It's not surprising. And so I'm not, again, trying to make it look like it's better or worse. It's just different. And I think difference is an attractor for many people. The campus is keeping its growth pattern intact. When I was here as president, we crossed 50,000 students. Now there are around 70,000 students. They aren't all right here. There are a few pieces of A&M elsewhere, but it gives you a sense of scale. It's a big university, the biggest certainly in Texas in terms of student population. It's got a lot of land. The main campus is over 5,000 acres. There's a satellite campus called the Rellis campus, not too far from here in Bryan, which is over 6,000 acres. So lots of land, lots of space. When I was here as a student, we lived on what's called the East Campus, east of the railroad track that bisects the campus. Now you have huge amounts of stuff on the west side of those tracks. In my day, the only thing over here was pig farms and the vet school, and that's changed a bit since those days I was a student here at Texas A&M.